Imagine waking up one morning to a discovery that shakes the foundation of everything you were taught. A skeleton. But not any ordinary skeleton. One taller than a 2-story building, with teeth the size of your fist, with bones so dense they were initially mistaken for stones. What if the oldest stories ever told, the ones whispered around fires, carved into temple walls, written in ancient scripture, what if they weren't stories at all? What if giants actually walked this earth? Today, we're going to look at the evidence, all of it, and by the end of this video, you may never look at ancient history the same way again. Here is a question that has quietly haunted historians for centuries. Why did every major civilization on Earth, civilizations that had absolutely no contact with one another, all independently tell the same story? The ancient Greeks gave us the Cyclops, a giant, largely human in form, terrifying in scale. The Norse sagas speak of the Jötunn, frost giants, who were not born from fantasy, but believed to be the original inhabitants of this world, existing before even the gods themselves. Indigenous peoples across the Americas carried oral traditions of massive ancient beings who once roamed their lands. The ancient Sumerians wrote of the Anunnaki, great beings who descended and shaped civilization. And then, perhaps most strikingly, there is the Bible. In the book of Genesis, it speaks plainly of a time when powerful beings mingled with ordinary humans. From that union came a race described as, quote, mighty, ancient, and glorified. A race of giants. Separate languages, separate continents, separate gods, but the same memory. When a story appears this universally, across this many cultures, science owes it more than dismissal. History owes it investigation. But let's move past myth, because recorded history, documented, cited scholarly history, is full of accounts that modern science has quietly chosen not to examine too closely. The Greek historian Herodotus, revered as the father of history, wrote of the Spartans seeking the bones of the ancient warrior Orestes. When those bones were found and measured, they came to 7 cubits. That is 11.5 feet tall, 3.5 meters. And this was recorded not as a miracle, but as a matter of historical fact. The scholar Pausanias documented the discovery of a skeleton at the bottom of a river. The height of that skeleton? 18 feet, 5.5 meters, taller than a full-grown giraffe. Roman historian Josephus Flavius went further still. He didn't just record bones. He collected testimony from eyewitnesses who reported seeing living giants. Witnesses described faces that were disproportionate to anything human, and voices that they said boomed like rolling thunder. And then there are the Vatican archives. In early Christian records, Adam is described as standing 13 feet tall, Eve approximately 10. These weren't theological poetry, they were written as historical descriptions. Now, skip forward to the 20th century. In the Caucasus Mountains, excavations unearthed multiple 13-foot human skeletons. Not one, not two, enough to suggest an entire population once lived there. Scientists dated these remains to somewhere between tens and hundreds of thousands of years ago.
And there is a detail that stopped researchers cold. The density of skeletal remains in that one region suggested these beings had gathered there deliberately, as if fleeing something, as if they were the last survivors of something catastrophic. Bones alone could be debated, but giants didn't just leave behind their remains. They left behind their footprints. In Tanzania, researchers uncovered a fossilized human footprint, 80 centimeters long. That's 2.5 feet for a single step. To make a footprint that size, the being that left it would have been enormous beyond anything in our living world. In the Nevada desert, footprints measuring 50 centimeters were found, dated to approximately 250 million years ago. That's not a misprint. 250 million years. In Turkmenistan, near a small village, a series of handprints was found, pressed into ancient rock alongside the tracks of dinosaurs. Calculations based on those handprints estimated the being that left them stood 5 meters tall and lived 150 million years ago. In 1935, a tooth was recovered in Hong Kong, human by all anatomical markers, but 5 times the size of any modern human tooth. In 1950, a 60-centimeter human skull with a double row of teeth was dug up in Alaska. And in 1999, a 50-foot petrified human skeleton was reportedly unearthed in Mongolia. Each of these, alone, could be dismissed. Together, they are a body of evidence that demands to be taken seriously. If giants existed, they didn't just live, they built. And what they built still stands today, defying explanation. In Lebanon, near Beirut, sits the Baalbek Terrace, one of the most structurally baffling sites on Earth. Its base is formed by 3 stone slabs. Each one weighs approximately 800 tons. They are cut with such impossible precision, joined with such impossible perfection, that you literally cannot slide a knife blade between them. Engineers and physicists who have studied the site have calculated that moving just one of those stones would require the coordinated effort of 35,000 people. 35,000 people. For a single stone. The entire population of a small city working in perfect synchronization just to move one block. Ancient Arabic manuscripts say plainly this was built by giants on the orders of the biblical king Nimrod after the Great Flood. Then there is Teotihuacan, the city of the gods, 31 miles outside Mexico City. This is not just a large ancient city. Its entire layout is an astronomical map. Each temple corresponds to a planet in our solar system, positioned at proportionally accurate distances from the central Sun Temple, including one corresponding to Pluto, a planet that modern astronomers only confirmed in 1930. How did an ancient civilization, without telescopes, know about a planet at the edge of our solar system? And there's something even stranger. Draw a straight line from the Tibetan city of the gods to the Egyptian Sphinx and extend it across the globe. It points directly to Easter Island. Draw another line from the same Tibetan site through the Mexican pyramids. It also reaches Easter Island. These 2 lines carve up exactly 1/4 of the Earth's surface, and a line from the city of the gods to Stonehenge divides that quarter precisely in half. This is not coincidence. This is cartography.
Someone mapped this planet and built their monuments to mark it. So the great question remains, if giants existed, why are they gone?
There is a theory. It is controversial. It runs counter to everything mainstream science teaches. And yet, it explains the fossil record, the myths, the monuments, and the disappearance of giants more completely than any other framework we have.
Hundreds of millions of years ago, a massive asteroid, far larger than our current moon, was captured by Earth's gravity. Rather than colliding with and destroying the planet, it settled into orbit. A second, enormous moon. And here is where physics becomes revelation. A body that large, orbiting this close to Earth, would have significantly reduced our planet's surface gravity, basic physics, and in a lower gravity environment, biology responds dramatically. Organisms grow larger. We already know this. Fossil record confirms that prehistoric Earth supported dinosaurs of impossible size, insects the length of a forearm, and plants that dwarfed our modern forests. The ancient atmosphere contained an estimated 1.5 times our current oxygen levels, fuel for massive biological growth. In that world, giants were not an anomaly. They were the natural result. Then, the catastrophe struck.
The satellite destabilized. It fell from orbit and shattered, raining debris across the entire planet. Those who survived found themselves in a transformed world almost overnight. Gravity increased sharply. The ozone layer was shredded to a fraction of its former thickness. Solar radiation became a lethal threat.
In that new world, a smaller body was an advantage. Less surface area meant less radiation exposure. Over generations, through mutation and adaptation, the giants shrank.
According to researchers who have studied these theories, including anthropologists Christopher Bohm and Franz Weidenreich, the first giants of the legendary continent of Lemuria may have reached 50 meters in height. Their descendants, 18 meters. Their descendants, 6 meters. Each generation smaller than the last.
Until, eventually, we emerged. A final echo of that original, towering race. And yet, even at 6 meters tall, some survived long enough to be encountered. Records from as recently as the 16th century describe sightings of beings far beyond the scale of ordinary men. The bones are real. The footprints are real. The structures are still standing and still impossible by any conventional explanation. And the myths from every corner of this ancient world are all remembering the same thing. We were not always small. We were not always weak.
There was a time when beings walked this earth who shook the ground with their steps. Beings who read the stars and understood what we took millennia to rediscover. Beings who carved mountains into monuments that have outlasted every empire since.
What ended their world? What fragments of their wisdom still survive in our myths, our monuments, our DNA? These are questions science has not yet answered, but the evidence is everywhere. Carved in stone, pressed into ancient earth, written in the world's oldest books. All it takes is the courage to look. Let me know in the comments, do you believe giants once walked this earth? And if they did, what do you think happened to them? Thank you for watching. If this made you question something today, that's exactly the point. Subscribe, because the mysteries of this world are far from over.